Have you ever wondered why so many people, from different cultures and different eras, turn to simple objects, like a pinch of salt, when they feel overwhelmed, stressed, or spiritually threatened? Across the world, salt has been seen as a symbol of cleansing, protection, and renewal. Some place it near doorways, others dissolve it in water, and a few even throw it away as a way of releasing negativity. These gestures don't hold supernatural power, but they do show something deeply human: our longing for peace, for clarity, for protection from what we cannot see. In Islam, real protection does not come from rituals or objects. It comes from Allah alone. Through dhikr, dua, and the certainty that Allah hears every whisper of your heart, a believer finds strength far beyond any symbolic act. Yet many people still mix cultural habits with spirituality, not out of superstition, but out of a desire to feel something change inside them. Today, we will explore why this happens, what these symbols represent emotionally, and how Islam teaches a deeper, stronger, and more lasting form of protection. Stay with me until the end to understand why this simple gesture has become a symbol, or another miracle, and how Islam teaches true protection. Have you ever seen symbolic rituals used in your family or culture? Tell me in the comments. Before we begin, please like the video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss anything. Share this video with your loved ones, because this knowledge can literally change a life. Before we dive deeper, we must understand that the use of salt as a symbol is ancient, stretching across continents and civilizations long before modern religions formed. In the Arabian Peninsula, long before Islam, tribes used salt to seal agreements or to show sincerity, because salt was seen as pure, stable, and resistant to corruption. In Africa and South Asia, salt was sprinkled in corners of the home after conflict or illness, not because it held spiritual power, but because it represented the desire for renewal and peace. In Mediterranean cultures, people placed salt at their doorstep as a reminder to keep negativity outside, a cultural gesture, not a divine command. As trade routes expanded, these small rituals traveled with merchants, families, and storytellers. Over time, they blended into local traditions, becoming part of wedding customs, healing ceremonies, and everyday superstitions. Many Muslim-majority regions inherited these practices, not as religious acts, but as old cultural habits that stayed alive simply because they brought comfort and symbolic order to people's lives. Islam came with clarity. No object has spiritual power unless Allah wills it. The Quran redirected people away from superstition and toward inner intention, prayer, and trust in the unseen wisdom of their Creator. But Islam also honored harmless cultural habits, as long as they didn't replace divine guidance. So, while you might find families using salt after arguments, during house cleanings, or even when moving into a new home, these gestures are not acts of worship. They are echoes of older civilizations trying to bring meaning to difficult moments. Today, in a world facing stress, uncertainty, and rapid change, people continue using these symbolic rituals because they create a feeling of control, a moment of reset, a reminder that the mind needs space to breathe. And even though these actions have no spiritual force, they reveal something universal: humanity's constant search for comfort, purity, and protection. As we explore why people use symbolic rituals, we must pause and look directly at what Islam itself teaches about protection, fear, and the unseen. Islam arrived in a world filled with superstitions, objects hung in doorways, powders thrown on the ground, symbols carved into walls, all believed to push away evil. Yet the Quran came with a liberating message. True protection is not in objects, but in the one who created them. The Prophet Muhammad taught his community that the most powerful shield is not salt, stones, charms, or rituals, but the remembrance of Allah. When fear enters the heart, when envy strikes, when anxiety overwhelms, the believer turns not to objects but to words. Words revealed by Allah and spoken with certainty. The Prophet taught, Surah Al-Falaq, to seek refuge from all forms of harm. Surah An-Nas, to protect the heart from whisperings. Ayat al-Kursi, to guard the believer night and day. Dua for anxiety and hardship, to lift the weight from the soul. These are not symbolic acts. They are spiritual realities that reshape the heart and reorder the mind. But here is the interesting part. Many Muslims still keep cultural habits alive. Not because they believe these objects hold divine power, but because humans naturally seek tangible gestures in moments of fear. Throwing salt, breaking something, lighting incense. These actions give a short sense of control. Yet Islam gently shifts our attention from the external to the internal. Allah says in the Quran, "Is Allah not enough for His servant?" Surah Az-Zumar 39:36. This verse is the answer to every ritual, superstition, and symbolic gesture that tries to replace divine reliance. Islam doesn't forbid comfort, but it teaches that the source of strength, healing, and protection flows only from Allah. Today, many people mix cultural traditions and faith not because they doubt Allah, but because they're searching for stability in a chaotic world. This is why it's so important to understand the difference. Symbols can calm the mind, but Allah calms the heart. When we talk about protection, fear, hardship, and the desire to break curses, it is impossible not to look at the world around us. Today, millions of people wake up each morning facing challenges far greater than symbolic rituals could ever solve. And yet, these same people show a level of faith, patience, and internal strength that shakes the heart of anyone who witnesses it. Gaza. Faith under fire, 2023 to 2025. In Gaza, families live through nights filled with the sound of explosions and days marked by loss and uncertainty. Reports from humanitarian teams show mothers reciting Surah Al-Falaq over their children as they put them to sleep in damaged homes. Fathers whisper Ayat al-Kursi while guiding their families through dark streets to find fresh water. Despite unbearable fear, these parents teach their children that Allah sees them, hears them, and never abandons them. Their protection comes not from objects or rituals, but from an unshakable connection to Allah in the middle of chaos. Turkey and Syria. Earthquakes, February 2023. During the devastating earthquakes in Turkey and northern Syria, rescuers found survivors who had spent hours, and some even days, trapped beneath collapsed buildings. Among the testimonies, many described the moments of panic turning into calm after reciting the Shahada or whispering verses from the Quran. One man from Hatay explained that every time he felt himself losing hope, he repeated, Hasbunallahu wa ni'ma al-wakil, until he felt a strange inner peace. These were not miracles of salt or charms or rituals. These were miracles of the human heart anchored to faith. Sudan, conflict and displacement, 2023 to 2024. Millions have been displaced by ongoing conflict in Sudan. Families crossing borders into Chad, South Sudan, and Egypt tell the same story. Fear, exhaustion, hunger, but also unbroken trust. In refugee camps, volunteers report entire groups gathering at sunset to recite Surah An-Nas, asking Allah to protect them from the harm of people and circumstances they cannot control. A young mother told journalists, "I lost everything except my dua." And in her voice was a truth far stronger than any symbolic ritual. Nigeria and the fight against extremism. In northern Nigeria, where communities face attacks from extremist groups, faith becomes both a shield and a lifeline. After fleeing violence, elders lead children in simple du'as learned from the Prophet ﷺ. O Allah, protect us from what we fear and grant us safety. These communities do not rely on objects, charms, powders, or symbols. They rely on Allah, with a resilience that turns tragedy into testimony. Across the world, these stories remind us that the human soul does not search for magic. It searches for meaning. It searches for certainty. It searches for Allah. When people feel powerless, they may reach for symbols. But in the darkest moments of real life, it is faith, not objects, that gives protection, courage, and hope. These are the real stories of our time, stories that show us what true spiritual strength looks like. Throughout the Quran, Allah shows us moments where human beings faced fear, darkness, threats, and forces that seemed far beyond their strength. And every time, protection came, not from objects, charms, or rituals, but from trust, patience, and the direct intervention of Allah. These stories are living lessons, reminders that when the heart turns to its Creator, no force of evil can overpower it. Musa, Moses, alayhi salam, and the sorcerers. Truth versus illusion. In the time of Pharaoh, people lived in a world saturated with magic. Sorcerers could deceive entire crowds, and objects were believed to hold real power. Yet when Musa alayhi salam threw his staff, Allah transformed it into a real serpent that swallowed every illusion. This moment shattered the belief that objects or rituals could control destiny. Allah showed the world that false power collapses when truth appears, and that real protection comes only from Him. Yusuf, Joseph alayhi salam, protected from evil intentions. Yusuf faced betrayal from his own brothers, false accusations, imprisonment, and years of separation from his father. Everywhere he turned, someone intended harm. But Allah's protection followed him at every step. When the wife of Al-Aziz attempted to seduce him, Yusuf cried, "O Allah, prison is better for me than what they call me to." This wasn't magic. This wasn't superstition. This was a believer seeking refuge in Allah. And Allah rescued him from plots he couldn't even see. Mary, alayhi salam, comforted in her loneliness. When Maryam stood alone during a childbirth, trembling, exhausted, and afraid, Allah comforted her with a voice from beneath her, "Do not grieve." A stream appeared at her feet. Dates fell from the palm tree and strength filled her heart again. Sometimes protection isn't a miracle of destruction, but a miracle of comfort, a miracle of spiritual presence. Allah protected her from despair, proving that even the purest hearts face storms, but never alone. The Prophet in the cave of Thor, protection without weapons. When the enemies of Quraysh stood at the mouth of the cave, Abu Bakr feared for their lives. The Prophet told him, "Do not be afraid. Indeed, Allah is with us." No salt, no charms, no symbolic gestures, just certainty. A spider spun a web, a bird laid eggs, and their enemies turned away, thinking no one could be inside. Allah protected His messenger with the simplest of creations, reminding us The divine protection does not require rituals, only trust. Abraham, alayhi salam, fire turned into peace. When Ibrahim was thrown into a blazing fire by his own people, Allah commanded, "O fire, be coolness and safety for Ibrahim." Fire obeyed its creator, the laws of nature bent by the command of the one who wrote them. If Allah wants to protect someone, even fire becomes gentle. These stories all teach the same lesson. No object breaks evil. No ritual controls destiny. No symbol protects the soul. What breaks fear, envy, plots, and evil is faith, dua, patience, sincerity, certainty in Allah's wisdom. The Quran gives living proof that protection directly from the Creator, not through salt, not through objects, not through symbolic acts. The heart that relies on Allah walks through danger with peace. Let's learn from the Quran what truly breaks fear, anxiety, and the feeling of being cursed. Which Quranic protection story inspires you the most? Comment below. Before we judge or mock symbolic rituals, we must understand something profound about human nature. When people feel overwhelmed, powerless, or spiritually attacked, the mind searches for any physical action that creates a sense of release. This is not magic. This is psychology. All around the world, people perform symbolic gestures, breaking a plate, burning paper, washing hands, throwing water or tossing salt. Not because they believe these objects contain spiritual power, but because the mind needs to see a representation of letting go. It is the same reason people clean their homes when stressed, organize their rooms after heartbreak, or take long showers before difficult conversations. The action creates the feeling of renewal. 1. The mind loves visible metaphors. When you throw salt into a toilet, tear a paper with your fears, or wash your hands with water, your brain interprets this as release. Researchers call this embodied cognition, the idea that physical actions influence emotions. The ritual doesn't break curses, it breaks psychological tension. 2. People use rituals to regain control. When a life feels chaotic, illness, financial problems, emotional pain, the human brain becomes anxious because it lacks control. Symbolic actions create a temporary illusion of control, which reduces stress. Islam recognizes this psychological need, but redirects it. Instead of relying on objects, it teaches prayer, dhikr, and dua, which not only calm the mind, but also connect the heart to Allah. 3. Rituals create a reset moment. In therapy, psychological reset rituals are common. Patients write their fears and rip the paper. They clean their living space to calm the mind. They walk outside to reset their emotions. A symbolic act is simply a way to tell your mind, the moment has changed. I'm starting fresh. This is why people around the world use salt, water, cleaning, or burning paper. It's not superstition. It's a human need for visible transformation. 4. Islam's approach. Internal before. External Islam doesn't deny that the mind benefits from symbolic gestures. But it teaches that true healing comes from inside, from the heart that remembers Allah, from the tongue that makes dua, from the soul that trusts its creator. You can clean your home, you can organize your space, you can use salt as a symbol of freshness, but you cannot expect it to break curses. Symbolic gestures calm the mind. Only Allah calms the heart. Let's uncover what your mind feels when you symbolically flush away negativity. Do symbolic actions help you reset emotionally? Tell me how. How to replace rituals with authentic Islamic protection practices. Now that we understand why people use symbolic gestures and why these actions affect the mind but not the spiritual world, we can turn to something far more powerful: the protection methods that Allah Himself taught us. Islam doesn't shame people for needing comfort or symbolic reset moments, but it offers something stronger, something that heals both the heart and the mind, something that doesn't fade after a moment of relief. Here are the real tools that break fear, anxiety, spiritual heaviness, and the feeling of being surrounded by negativity. 1. Recite Surah Al-Falaq and Surah An-Nas daily. These two short surahs were revealed specifically as protection against all forms of harm, seen and unseen. They protect your heart, your mind, and your peace. The Prophet ﷺ recited them every night, blowing lightly into his hands and wiping them over his body for protection. This is not a symbol. This is revelation. 2. Ayat al-Kursi, a shield for your day and night. The Prophet said, no protection is more powerful for the home than Ayat al-Kursi. Reciting it before sleep protects you until morning. Reciting it after prayer strengthens your spiritual armor. Reciting it during fear brings clarity and courage. You don't need salt. You need certainty. 3. Dua. When you feel attacked by fear or anxiety. The Prophet taught a dua for heavy hearts. O Allah, I seek refuge in you from worry and sorrow, from weakness and laziness, from fearfulness, miserliness, and from the burden of debts and being overpowered by people. This dua breaks internal chains, the kind no ritual could ever break. 4. Clean your home. Physically, Islam loves cleanliness. Here is where psychology and spirituality meet beautifully. A clean home removes stress, clears the mind, and brings tranquility. The Prophet said, cleanliness is half of faith. If salt helps you clean, use it. If water refreshes your space, use it. But your intention should be, I am creating a peaceful environment that reminds me of Allah. 5. Regular dhikr, the heart's anchor. There are moments where fear rises suddenly. A bad dream, an argument, a financial worry, a wave of sadness for no reason. In those moments, say, Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illa Allah. Science now confirms that rhythmic repetition calms the nervous system. Islam taught it 1400 years ago. 6. Build a strong relationship with the Quran. Even one verse a day changes the emotional climate of your home. Your heart starts healing. Your mind becomes clearer. Your decisions become wiser. This is the spiritual power people search for in symbolic objects. 7. Strengthen your inner circle. Protection also comes from healthy relationships, supportive family, wise friends, people who remind you of Allah. The Prophet said, a person is upon the religion of their closest companion. If your home feels heavy, sometimes you need a new environment more than a symbolic ritual. Symbolic acts calm the surface. Islamic practices heal the depths. This is how you replace rituals with something far more meaningful, lasting, and divinely rooted. Here are real steps from the Quran and Sunnah to break fear, worry, and hopelessness. Which of these steps would you like me to explain in another video? Comment the number. If you've stayed with me until now, then know this: whatever fear you carry, whatever heaviness sits on your heart, whatever shadow has been following you, you are not alone, and you are not powerless. You don't need objects. You don't need rituals. You don't need to search for symbols in the dark. You need Allah. There is no curse stronger than His mercy. There is no fear bigger than His protection. There is no sadness heavier than the ease He can send. The same Lord who saved Musa from Pharaoh, Yusuf from the well, Maryam from loneliness, and the Prophet from his enemies, is the same Lord watching over you right now. Sometimes the world makes you feel surrounded. Sometimes life hits you so hard that you look for anything at all, that might bring comfort, control, or clarity. But protection is not found in the objects we throw away. It's found in the burdens we surrender to Allah. So breathe. Place your hand over your heart and remind yourself with certainty: Allah is with me, Allah protects me, and Allah is enough for me. May Allah shield you from every harm, open every closed door, and fill your home with light, peace, and tranquility. If you watched until now, may Allah protect you from all harm, seen and unseen. Comment Ameen if you want a prayer for protection in the next video.